My father always says you never see yourself as others see you. So rather than looking at Antony Blinken's visit to China, which is an incredibly important moment in U.S.-Chinese relationships as we see it, or, for example, that the Biden administration spins it as a success of diplomacy, let's take a look at it from how the Chinese see it, as reported by the New York Times. To nationalists leading audiences in China, the scenes tell a different story. To them, Mr. Blinken arrived only after pleading for months for an invitation. That happens to be true. And during his visit, he was schooled on respecting China's interests and played supplicant to Mr. Xi. Chinese social media users gleefully noted that Mr. Blinken arrived on Father's Day, the implication being that Mr. Xi was America's daddy. The Wall Street Journal reports China will build a new training facility in Cuba's northern shores. Well, those are just 90 miles away from the tip of Florida. It's been 61 years since an American enemy deployed their troops to Cuba. That, of course, was the Soviet Union. They weren't scared of America either. They viewed us as chumps, weak, and thus they deployed nuclear missiles, creating the Cuban Missile Crisis. George Will's here, Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist, NewsNation's senior political contributor. America being seen as weak by their enemies is not a good thing, is it?
It's not a good thing, and it's not new. The Japanese, before World War II, said we lacked a samurai warrior culture, we would be pushovers. The Germans thought we were a Mongolized mixed race society and therefore would not have the warrior spirit. The Soviet Union said we were enervated by the luxuries of capitalism and would be brought down by the contradictions of capitalism. They're all gone, we're still here.
True, although we had to fight World War II in order to deal with that, and obviously the collapse of the Soviet Union was a collapse of their system. I think about the way that leaders in the past have talked about our enemies, granted sometimes at war, sometimes during the Cold War, but specifically John Kennedy talking about the Cuban Missile Crisis and how now President Biden addresses the problems with China. Take a listen.
The United States does not seek conflict or confrontation with China.
The cost of freedom is always high, but Americans have always paid it. And one path we shall never choose, and that is the path of surrender or submission.
That was a strong statement, and I don't think the United States needs to bluster. The way the state media of China treats us radiates insecurity, and it's a nation with much to be insecure about. 7 weeks ago, according to demographers who track these things, China lost its rank as the most populous nation in the world, and it will never get it back. India is now growing and in the lead. Because of the long echo of the one-child policy, it is certain, it's baked in the cake. Their demographic destiny is to shrink, probably under 600 million by the end of this century. It is possible, if the United States has rational, welcoming immigration policies, there'll be as many Americans as there are Chinese at the end of this century. We have passed peak China.
All right, if we pass peak China, and I understand the idea of insecurity, but an insecure person, an insecure bully with nuclear weapons, facing an adversary who they view as worthy of scorn, which I think the Chinese do us, and that they can project force and take what they can now while they are insecure, but still more willing to fight than we are, can cause a lot of problems.
They are more dangerous now that they are insecure, because I think Xi rightly thinks there's a closing window of opportunity for him to project power. And that's why these are particularly dangerous times for Taiwan, not because China is ascendant, but precisely because China is in decline.
So wouldn't the theory be that when your enemy is in decline, you at least point that out and you try to put them in their place rather than step back and send your Secretary of State there to say we don't support an independent Taiwan?
I don't think this is something you ought to gloat about. You ought to be quietly confident and let them go their way. Sending the Secretary of State doesn't seem to me to be a bad thing to do. If Xi wants to, by his placement of him at the end of a long table rather than sitting next to him and all the other petty optics that they tried to maneuver, that's missing the point. Here's the point. On Thursday, the Prime Minister of the most populous nation in the world, Modi from India, is going to address the joint session of Congress. That's the ascendant power.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.